Welcome back to the OIS podcast. This week, Dr. Sadri is joined by Ram Rao, the CEO of LensGen. Ram hit several roadblocks along the way, but shares his passion for ophthalmology and drive to succeed. Let's listen in.
Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Sadri. I'm an ophthalmologist here in Newport Beach, California, and also a co-founder and GP at Visionary Ventures. Coming with you live with my good friend Ram Rao here, also in Southern Cal, not too far from me, and located here in Irvine. And I've gotten to know him, last few years. Gosh, how long has it been, Ram, since we met?
4 years at least. I mean, right?
I think it's like more like 6. Yeah, it feels like longer. So we're just excited to have you come on and talk about LensGen, your company, and you. And really, just most people already know who you are, but I wanted to get a chance to kind of introduce you to the folks that don't know who you are, and really tell us a little about your background and how did you tell us about the story with Roger and how you just came up to in ophthalmology in general.
Well, my background is I'm an electronics engineer. Very early part of my career, I was designing computers. And it just turned out that, I joined a company, instrumentation company, scientific instrumentation company. And they were, by accident, they developed a tonometer for glaucoma. It was a very innovative device, very innovative company. I loved the company. And I ended up multiple years later running the ophthalmology division of that company. And that was Biorad. And that kind of way I was bitten into the fruit of ophthalmology, and I loved it. And everything about ophthalmology, I liked it, the people you deal with, and the intellect of the surgeons and ophthalmologists. Everything about ophthalmology was something I loved. And so I said, this is my career. And after a while, I left that larger company, and I said, I want to start my own company. At the time, I was in Boston, and my first company turned out to be a joint venture with a large Japanese company. And once again, innovative technology, corneal topography. And that was one of my first companies called Tomei. And that company, then I sold that company to my Japanese partner, moved to Southern California, and then I started AcuFocus with the help of Bill Link. And Bill Link was, of the many, many investors I talked to, Bill Link had the vision to see the merit of our technology. Everybody else said, hey, pinhole, that's not a product. But Bill had the vision and the insight. And he funded it. I learned a lot about entrepreneurship further from Bill. And Bill was a great teacher for all of us. And so that became a successful company. And then I went into a couple of other companies, one in pharmaceuticals and one in 3D imaging for ophthalmology. And that sort of became TrueVision down the line, that concept. And then I stumbled into LensGen. And the LensGen story is quite interesting because I went to Roger, who was my friend from my Boston days. I knew him very well. And I said, look, I want to get cataract surgery done way 10, 15 years before I really need it. And simply because, A, I want to get rid of my glasses. And the B, I'm noticing some slight degradation in the contrast sensitivity, so slight, but maybe this will solve that problem too. And he said, yes, I'm okay to do your cataract surgery, no problem, but I'm not okay and putting any of the presbyopia lenses that are available. At that time, crystal lens was there, a whole bunch of multifocal lenses were there. I said, I'm not going to put it. And I said, why? And that's exactly what I want. He said, no, the quality of the vision on any one of these technologies is not quite satisfactory to me, so I'm not going to put it in my friend's eye. and you just have to wait and wear glasses until then. And so he went ahead and did the surgery, and my vision was improved dramatically. 20/20 distance. I have to wear glasses still for reading and intermediate. That led me to kind of spend a lot of time poring over what technology is available and the patent world. And then I thought liquid lenses would be the right technology because they biomimic the natural process of accommodation. And so I went and wrote a patent, went back to Roger and said, what do you think about this idea? I don't know anything about lenses that much. And but this is the idea. And he looked at it for a while, looked at it again, and said, you're onto something. I like the process that this works like nature. And I've been waiting for something similar to this. So why don't you just not sit on it? That would be criminal. Let's do something. And you need help? I'm here to help. That's how the LensGen got started. And then we were very fortunate. At the time, Johnson & Johnson had a corporate program where they funded innovative ideas, which are at a paper level, to go to proof of concept level. We applied. Roger went with me a couple of times, a couple of meetings with J&J guys, and I think we were a good team. And they gave us a few $100,000 and it says, go build a prototype. And so that's how the company got started in 2012.
Remarkable.
Yeah.
That's remarkable. That was 2012. I remember when, right after that, you and I met.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. And
so that's great. And we all miss Roger. He was really a true visionary and a legend in eye care. And he was a mentor to a lot of people. And also you mentioned Bill Link, who we actually had on the podcast here just a few weeks ago. And he is just, like you said, he's a treasure trove of just unbelievable amount of information for everybody, just both ophthalmologists and also entrepreneurs. That's great. Yeah. That's great. That's a great story. A lot of stuff for our viewers and listeners there. A lot of pearls on.
Here is something you like, as our corporate boardroom, conference room here. The name of that conference room is Steinert Room.
Oh, that's great.
We have a big picture. Yeah. We have a big picture of Roger there. I took a picture of that room, his picture, and sent it to April, his wife in Boston.
Yeah, she's just truly special human being, and just that kind of energy. He's so optimistic, and I think that's the key. The other thing is for our listeners is lean in and be optimistic when the opportunity presents. And I love what you did there. You had an idea, and you just went for it, and you got a good advisor like Roger and said, hey, does this thing pass the smell test, right? This liquid gel lens that I don't even know anything about. And that was smart. You had a brilliant ophthalmologist and said, hey, wait a minute, I think you're onto something. That's really good. And I think you're one of those guys that even if you heard, like, I don't know, this whole, I would stick to my day job. I would bet that you would have said, let's get a second opinion, wouldn't you?
Yeah. There were two other reasons, Ehsan, why I loved Roger, going back to Roger. Because Roger, in the past, when I went to him with an idea, he looked straight in my face, Ram, that's the dumbest idea I've ever seen. He's that honest. He never says something to please you. He always says something that he really feels. So that's the reason why you get a really honest opinion, unvarnished, you go to Roger. And number two, and I also know that Roger would not let me do something like cutting the corners or trying to do something less than almost perfect. Yeah. He would he's like a force. And he said, let's do something right. And that kind of aligns with my values. And so that always has been important as a culture in the company for us.
Yeah. And so let's talk about the company, because when you and I first met, you had the lens, liquid design, right? And which was very, very unique. And then a few years ago, when you and I met again, you had gone back and redesigned the whole thing. Tell us about that, and because there's a lot of pearls there for our viewers and our listeners.
Sure. The first design we came out with, obviously, and was a single piece design, and which had a liquid in it, and we also had a deformable membrane that actually changed the curvature. And we designed this, we tested it on the bench, and it was working perfectly. Tested it in cadaver eye, working perfectly. I had a scientific advisory board meeting, and I presented it, and he said, how are you going to insert this big lens? You're going to have a problem. So, no, we thought about it. We're going to take the fluid out of the lens, and then it's foldable. We'll put it into the eye. Then we refill it in situ. And everybody looked at it and said, yeah, we can do that. It's not a difficult, you have to have some kind of a valve, one-way valve. I said, yeah, we thought about it. We already designed it. Except for one in that advisory board. He looked at me and said, Ram, I thought one of your objectives in this company was to have a surgical procedure identical to what it is today, not a single element different. So this is not going to be that way. It's going to be a very different surgical procedure now with added filling in situ. And I looked at my team and said, that's exactly the right thing. We are wrong. We have to go back to the drawing board. We went back to the drawing board, and we came back with almost 6 months later, a two-piece design. So we said, now the design is two pieces. There is a fixed piece, base lens, that we implant first or posterior in the capsule, and then we implant a liquid lens later into the cavity of the base lens. And now this will make the insertion process, although there are two insertions one after the other, identical to standard cataract surgery. And the incision size also is now 3 millimeters or less. And that was acceptable to everybody. And I'm glad, somebody spoke up in that meeting. If they didn't, we would have gone on the wrong path.
Yeah.
And we would have regretted it.
You know what I love about this story? It kind of, I don't know if you ever read Steve Jobs' biography.
I did, yeah.
You did? Okay. So this kind of reminds me of the CEO, which he was. And if he didn't love something and his team didn't love it and there was issues, they were really courageous enough. This is the right word, I think, courageous to go and say, you know what, time out. Let's go back to the drawing boards, even though there's so much time spent, resources, and things being tight. He did that with the as you probably remember reading it, is the glass on the iPhone. He said,
"That's right, exactly."
He's like, it scratches. I'm out. And they're like, "What do you mean? We're almost done. We're like 2 weeks into production." They're like, "No, you got to go back." So they went back and they changed the glass and manufacturing the size and all that. And it's just like the same thing. I mean, you went to a radical change. It wasn't easy. And I remember when I saw you again at a deli here at my office, and like, whoa, you've been working on this thing. So I want to commend you for that, because that's courage, and it's hard to sit with the board and the team who's emotionally probably vested and say, guys, no, we're going to check it. We're going to just revamp this thing. So that's for a pearl there for everybody to learn, have the courage to really be true to the project. So that's great.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about the team. I was fortunate to attract into the company.
Yeah.
They're more dedicated than I am in every aspect of the company.
Yeah.
They're intense, and they're at least 100 times smarter than I am in every aspect of design. So, it's very fortunate, and we have a culture here that, we can do whatever is necessary to be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's focus our entire thinking around what patient needs.
Yeah.
Not necessarily what the surgeons need, that is secondary. Because unless patients are happy, surgeons are not happy. Surgeons want more than anything else patients to be happy, not complaining, not coming back and again to the clinic. And this is the sort of a syndrome with the crystal lens and other lenses in this space. And the patient satisfaction is not less than perfect. And I said, let's focus on that aspect of it. And so that's kind of what is our goal, our culture here.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I've met your crew. They're just wonderful. Michael's just on tour de force. I mean, you have just unbelievable people on your R&D team, and I've actually got, as you remember, when I saw the lens implantation, very simple design from a high sort of volume cataract surgeon, even someone who just does regular straight monofocals. Colleagues of ours that I think in a very, very sub 10-minute cataract, it was just readily done, very user friendly. And I love what you're doing. I mean, it's very unique, and I'd love to see more and talk to you more about like your design for the studies and stuff. So I think that's going to be. So tell us a little bit about that. So where are you now with the company as far as you just made a very amazing announcement this morning, which I got an email and forwarded that to you. I said, hey, let's talk about this on our podcast. It's perfect timing. So do you want to announce what you just released?
Yeah, we just closed a $10 million financing, and this is actually a total of $20 million financing. And so this is the initial closing of 10, and we intend to close the other 10 over the next few months. And we are opening up this investment to all existing shareholders and all the investors who are already there. And whereas this particular $10 million closing we did came from the major investors, which is Hoya and another investor. And so we have a lot of other investors who express interest in investing. So we're going to go back to them. And this is a convertible note with a mandatory conversion. Nobody can call the note. And it will fold into Series B. And we plan to do a Series B of about $60 to $70 million range over the next, let's say, 12 months or so. And this $20 million would be part of that 60 plus.
That's great. That's great. Congratulations. It's not easy, this environment, COVID, to do a lot of fundraising. And Hoya being such a big partner for you, that's great. That's wonderful. So to date, how much have you raised for our audience? How much has the cap?
We raised about $32 million prior to this total. Yeah. And now this will add to, if we end up raising all the 20, it'll be 52. And we'll be raising another, out of the 60, we already raised 20, so another 40. So we'll be raising just around $100 million before we get an approval. So
and then what kind of valuations are you guys on now? Because I love what you've done with the valuations have gone up.
Valuations we don't know because this is a convertible note. And whatever valuation we get Series B, that will convert with a slight discount, very small discount. And we have very nice terms on this $10 million. Very small discount and very small interest rate. And so we're fortunate in being able to raise this money.
For those of you interested, I'm going to put Ram's information after this. You can inquire for the terms and whatnot. So let's talk about that real quick, Ram. So you're heading into your clinical trials. When give us a timeline for your submission and all that? Because I know that was before COVID. You and I had a meeting in Irvine. How's our things going now?
So we spent most of 2019, doing what are known as a preclinical testing to apply for an IDE. We have to do a humongous amount of testing on the base lens, on the fluid lens, on the fluid, on the injectors, on the packaging, you name it. Series of tests, we have done over 120 different tests. And these were done outside. And we wrote it all up in our IDE submission, which was approximately 8,950 pages. FDA said, this is such a large submission. We have never seen something like this. We want you to give us a sort of a guideline to find all the answers we are going to be asking for. So we had to prepare another document for them. We submitted that in early May. And in June, we heard back from FDA. And they had something like about 20 plus questions for us, clarifications. And We provided all those clarifications in July. And now this is August. So next week, we should be hearing from FDA. If the response is favorable, they don't have further questions, they would allow us to go into phase 1 studies in the US. So we already picked 5 sites for that.
Oh, good.
And within 60 days after their approval, we can start enrolling patients into the. We will be in the actually first implants will be made about 60 days from then. So that is about November timeframe. And if FDA has further questions, we had to make one more round trip with FDA. That will be delayed by another 45 days. So that's kind of our timeline right now.
That's coming around the corner.
Yeah, it's right around the corner. Phase 1 is you do about 60 eyes or so.
Yeah.
You submit the data after about 4 to 6 month follow-up. And then if the data, they're only looking for safety. The safety data is very good. Then they'll allow you to expand the study to 22 sites.
Gotcha. Very good. Congratulations. I know you've been working really hard on this. And, there's tremendous momentum going into this year. Hopefully, a lot of people are wanting 2020 to end soon. It's been an interesting time. Has that affected your business, the COVID?
It didn't at all. We're kind of we do things a little bit different than most people. And, we are one of the first companies not to go to Europe and get European approval first before coming to US. We said, no, going to Europe does not give us much of an advantage, much of a difference in valuation of the company. And if you're not intending to market the product there, what's the point in going there and getting a regulatory approval? So on the day 1 after our phase 1, I went back to the board and said, I raised all this money to go to Europe, but I'm not going to Europe. We're going to go straight to US FDA. And it'll take a little bit longer, a little bit more money, but we're going to do that. And they bought it, which was very good. They bought that, and we went straight to the US. So we did something different than most people. Now most people are doing what we were doing too. The other thing we did unusual is, which is not normally done, is we'll go straight to the US FDA trials, and we will prove the validity of this lens here. And we are doing it with the smallest amount of a capital we can think about. We didn't raise a lot of money so far.
Yeah.
And we'll probably get this product approved, actually 2 products, because we have trailing right behind it is a Juvene toric, which also corrects astigmatism.
That's terrific. That's terrific. That's going to be great. I mean, this is a great timing, isn't it, for platform, because I think that there's a lot of buyers. I think that, like you said, there's a lot of sort of pending issues. Not every patient is going to be a good candidate. So I think from a clinician standpoint, that's really exciting to have these options for our patients, especially in that premium channel where we're constantly just kind of worried. Hopefully, we're getting the targets what we want. And what I like about your design is not necessarily there's not that many extra post-op visits. You just kind of do the procedure and get a reliable outcome.
Yeah. One other thing we found out, Ehsan, I was sharing this information with you. When we went around, did our own market research, and this came as a total surprise to us. Most of the people who are employing multifocal lenses, they all said, most of the surgeons, we exclude contraindicated approximately 30 to 40% of the patients. And anybody who has got any kind of a corneal pathology, retinal pathology, dry eye, glaucoma. So we exclude all these patients because implanting a multifocal lens in these patients, has a much more higher impact on the quality of the vision. And so they don't want to take a risk. And so with our lens, which is equivalent to a monofocal lens, which shifts the focus by changing the curvature contiguously, dynamically, you don't have any issues like that. All the patients will be qualified to receive the implant. Yeah, this is about 30% increase in the market size overnight.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. There's a lot of hanging fruit, like low hanging fruit, as they say.
Yeah.
So I know I could talk to you for a long time, but I wanted to kind of also pivot back and say, what are some things that you have learned, maybe top 3 pearls that you would like tell younger entrepreneurs, younger CEOs, the younger version of yourself 30 years ago? How have you changed? Who are you now versus who you were before? What are some things? How did you change? Like, you became a new person almost, right? Because of all the things
you do. You have to become. Yeah. I mean, besides growing thick skin, every entrepreneur has to grow that thick skin, because out of the 100 people you talk to for financing, 2 people would listen to your story all the way through the end of it. So you have to grow that thick skin. Yeah.
Yes, I know.
If you had any self-esteem before, forget it.
Yeah.
Right.
If there's anything left, you have to crawl back to the house and talk to the wife. That's so funny.
That's number 1. Number 2 is, one thing I learned is, you have to have your eye on that ball, laser focus.
Yeah.
You never take no for an answer. You should be prepared for at least 5 times in your career with a company, a startup company. You will come to near-death situation. And most of us normally say, there is a better way to make a life. There is a paycheck I can expect every week. I did something different.
What am I doing?
What am I doing?
It's always like middle of the night, isn't it? It's never like during the day. It's like middle of the night, 2 a.m. What am I doing?
Yeah, you have these sweats, and you wake up and say, "What am I doing?" Right? But you have to be disciplined. You have to have that strong will to say, "I will see myself through this, and anything else that might come down the line."
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't have that discipline, don't have that willpower.
Perseverance, right? What Churchill said was, fail to forward to success, which is
exactly
what you're describing. It's amazing.
That's the famous
school.
That's exactly right. So you have to do that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, whatever you feel it is right, that kind of your intuition tells you this is the right thing to do, this is the right product, this is the right way you want to shape the product, and do it. And don't get dissuaded by too many different opinions that you get. And, go to the sources that are reliable, that are likely to tell you frankly, candidly, what is right, what is not right, not something that pleases you. And last thing you have to learn is willing to, salvage all your savings and put them into the company if necessary.
Yeah, because I have to. Only one.
Yeah. Before we closed Series A, we ran out of money, and there were, at the time, fortunately, we only had about 7 or 8 people in the company. And but I kept writing checks, and I was taking money from my 401ks or whatever. And my wife was looking at it, and she said, I know there's nothing else I can do, because this is what you're going to do. This is this is what your passion, and so those things you should be prepared for.
Yep. Yeah, I know what you mean, my brother.
You've always been there. You're a fellow entrepreneur, so you know what I'm talking.
I'm proud of you. I mean, as a provider and someone who's actually does a lot of implants, I think this is exciting. It's always good to have technologies like this. I can't wait to be asked to put some in and provide it for our patients, both clinically and just on the trial side. And I think you have a very bright future. So I congratulate you. And it's just, we can talk, like I said, a long time, but I just want to make it short and sweet. And it was just wonderful to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. As I said, I can talk to you for hours and hours and hours. Our journey is very similar.
It is very similar. Yeah, it's very similar. I'm proud of you. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for another episode. We hope Ram's story inspired you. Please rate and share the OIS podcast with anyone who you think would benefit from hearing candid conversations with the top players in ophthalmic innovation.